I had an altercation with that dog 2 days ago. It's a dog that apparently resides with the neighbors over there. The neighbors of this cabin that I'm staying in for the next few months. This place is about 8 acres, and there's plenty of room for my cats that like to go outside, which is pretty much all 4 of them at times. Although the 2 boy cats are much more, I'll say much less risk averse than the 2 females, which you might expect based on evolutionary biology. They're a little more reticent, particularly Gigi. She prefers most of the time just to stay inside, but my 2 boy cats were outside and that dog was having a fit down there. And I had seen Henry just a few minutes before that, kind of halfway down the driveway in that direction, and that dog was having a fit and going crazy like it. And I began to picture Henry treed with that dog having a fit underneath the tree that he's in. So I just decided I would take a casual walk down there and see if I could see what was going on. And when I did, that dog confronted me. And it's some sort of a pit bull mix, appears to be, or a bull, little, not a dog of great stature, but a dog of great strength, it looks like, and also resolve as it came out of those woods, headed in a line straight toward me. Well, I turned around and stared at him compassionately, not, at first it was a little defiantly, actually. Fear arose. I sensed the arising of fear. And we stared at each other for a few minutes with a distance of about 10 feet between us, and finally he stopped that growling and snarling, and got a little bit quiet, and I just sort of easily turned around and continued in the direction I was going, which is back to my little driveway here. Well, that didn't satisfy him, and here he comes. And I'm thinking that these animals are more prone to attack retreating prey than prey that faces it down. So this time I turned around and we squared off again at about 10 feet with him with his lips curled back and his teeth showing and him mad. But at that point I got the feeling that what I was witnessing was more of a fear-based thing than anything else. It was a manifestation of this dog's fear. And so that we stared at each other for a few seconds, and I was starting to become less and less scared of this whole situation. Honestly thinking about the Buddha sacrificing his own body for a starving lioness, and knowing that whatever it is that kills this body, if I need another body, I'll get one. It's not that big a deal. So all this was going through my mind, and we kind of got calm again, and I started on my way back toward the driveway, and here he comes, the 3rd time. But he wasn't as aggressive. He was just kind of down to a yelp, kind of like I've been hearing now. By now, but he was still following me, and so I turned around, and he was doing that growling a little bit, but not like before, and I just said, "It's okay, buddy. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Everything's okay." And then he stopped making any sound at all, and I turned around and went on toward my driveway. He apparently turned back around and went back up toward his house. And then I was thinking how this all is a manifestation of mind. I perceive it as a manifestation of mind. The question, I guess, might be, whose mind is it a manifestation of? Well, let's think of a small example first, such as this cabin that I'm staying in. It didn't just appear. It started out as an idea in somebody's mind, right? And then that idea, powered through the power of God or consciousness, through human beings, caused the appearance of the structure. Human beings. Anything that you see that's man-made, quote unquote, which is human being made, started out as an idea. Everything from the most awesome works of art, the most awesome buildings and bridges and whatever else, machines that can go out into outer space now. All that kind of stuff is a manifestation of mind, because if it weren't for the ideas, then these things would have never come into creation. But then you begin to actually perceive this as how it is a manifestation of mind. What about trees and mountains and fire even? These are manifestations of a universal mind or a God mind. And you see that the things that are manifested out of the mind of God dwarf anything that human beings have ever been able to come up with, as awesome as some of this stuff has been. What else do human beings create using the power of mind? All kinds of misery on each other. I say that your mind is the cosmic mind. My mind is cosmic mind all the time. The only difference between individuals is what kind of level of purity, spiritual purity, is the vessel through which this power is being manifest. What is purity? Purity of mind, obviously. If all this is a creation of mind, then purity of mind, the pure mind, if it creates at all, will create beautiful things for the enjoyment of everybody. The polluted mind, when it creates, is going to create suffering for itself and others. So for somebody that's just starting out on a path of trying to sort out non-duality or the ultimate reality or the reality limit, if you will, Nirguna Brahman, the God that is described as that I am, just that I am, without any manifestation, that God. What if that is what if the mind that is your mind, emptiness. Out of which this entire phenomenal universe emerges and arises. Beginning with one mere thought or conceptualization. And it gets compounded into this entire universe from you, from the source, you. You would say from your perspective, you. You would say I. I am the light by which all of this is experienced. Why is it helpful from the standpoint of reducing suffering or relieving suffering to have this understanding? Because to the extent that the entire creation, the world, is perceived as a product of your own mind, as something that is arising and passing away in your own mind, one awesome benefit of it is you realize that you have to stop blaming everybody and anybody. There's nobody else that's responsible for this except for you. Another way to put this is that you are manifesting your own reality, like a lot of these New Age people say and think. But it doesn't work the way they say or think. And I've been to campouts and stuff with some of these people, and they've even called it a creator's campout one time, as if an individual personality can manifest a reality, and that's not the way it works. Here's the way it works. The reality that is manifested for you is a result of all of your past actions of thought, word, and deed. Mostly word and deed. And so, thinking that you can, cultivate some sort of bliss or happy feeling through a psychedelic drug or some other way, chanting or drum beating and all that kind of stuff, through that kind of intentionality, is misguided and leads to more suffering, not less. There is no easy way to have a spiritual awakening or become enlightened for most people. And if there are those rare few that it seems easy for, it's because of all of they've already gone through the hard part in previous lifetimes. But for most of us that are, especially if we've been out involved in the world and gotten attached to this and that and involved and pursuing happiness in all the ways that most people think that it should be pursued, if people have gotten out and gotten involved in that and gotten miserable kind of as a result of it or in the middle of it, it takes work to extricate oneself from that, but it can be done. And it takes dedication, and it takes, you have to almost be broken down somehow to the point that you're some kind of a dawning of awareness that nothing that you've been doing so far is ever going to work if it hasn't worked up until now. Most people can look back through their lives and see patterns if they're self-aware enough. They see themselves doing the same things over and over again, with just the faces and the names change, and most people don't realize that's the manifestation of your own spiritual problem, and you're getting multiple opportunities to try to deal with it in a skillful way so that you can elevate out of that particular form of suffering that you're having to go through. When the soul realizes that this is all literally a manifestation of mind, and it starts thinking about how am I going to use this information to alleviate my own suffering and the suffering of others. One way is to understand that it's always been true that the more I, as a personality, ego, the more I have gotten involved in trying to make things happen one way or another, hasn't ever been a guarantee that things were going to work out that way, and never will be. I guess what I'm saying is, if you want to create happiness, you have to stop trying. Just accept everything as it is all the time. And for a while after you do that, things might suck because of all this karma that you've already created that's still going to pop up, you know, but then everything becomes a test. It becomes anything that riles you or it gets you excited or whatever, arouses any type of passion at all. And eliciting an inclination to respond becomes the object of scrutiny. And it gets easier to just stop reacting and responding, and then at a certain point of doing that, you begin to get into a flow and realize that you realize the truth of what it says. In the Tao Te Ching about by not controlling anything, everything is under control. Everything is controlled by abandoning any effort to control anything. Well, I better go look for my cats. We're on an island here, surrounded by hostile enemies in the nature of dogs. But, I should finish that story up a while ago. I came back to the house and I hadn't seen Henry. I thought, well, at least the dog's pacified, you know, and Henry, if he's up in a tree down there somewhere, once things are calmed down, he'll come down and work his way back up here. Went on in the house and sat down on the couch and was just sitting there meditating and watching the other cats. And about 15 minutes later, Henry emerges from a back room. He was smart enough he read the tea leaves on that dog, and he got his butt inside, because I leave the door open over there when I'm out here with them. Anyway, may you all be at peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.